What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Curious Dimension podcast, where we explore the mysteries of the unknown, delve into the fascinating world of UFO disclosure, sacred geometry, crop circles, and more. I'm your host, Matt Barone. I hope that you've been enjoying the conversations as much as I have been hosting them. Don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps us reach more curious minds like yours. And if you want to stay updated with all the latest episodes, be sure to hammer that subscribe button. You won't want to miss any of the exciting discussions we have lined up. Finally, we love hearing from you. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on today's episode or any questions you might have. Your feedback means the world to me and it helps shape future content. Today, I'm happy to welcome back UFO investigator Jon Stewart. Jon came on the podcast about 11 months ago to go over his investigation of the controversial alien interview footage, also known as the Victor video. Jon has completed his documentary on this case, which will be available on his website, huntingvictor.com, Thanksgiving evening, and it will be released. I said this last time Jon was on the show. I have no idea if this video is authentic or not, but it makes me feel very uncomfortable. I do think if someone hoaxed this video, they did a decent job of it. And if it's real, then we're looking at the most important piece of footage ever leaked. So I'll leave it up to you to decide. If you're interested in watching the alien interview footage, I'm going to put a link in the description so that you can check it out. So buckle up. Without further ado, let's welcome back Jon Stewart. All right, Jon, we are live. It's great to have you back on the show, Jon. I think it's been about 12 months since we did our first podcast. And
I didn't know I didn't know it was that long. Okay.
yeah, I think I released it mid-December 2023. And here we are now at the end of 2024. I know that you've been very busy, working very hard on this documentary and this piece of footage that you've dedicated your life to over the last several years. And before we get started, Jon, I just want to say one thing. I don't think enough people are acknowledging your effort, your time, and most likely your own money that you've put into trying to unravel one of the most controversial piece of footages in the UFO community, hands down. I don't know of another piece of footage that's more charged than what you've been doing. So I just want to acknowledge your effort, your time, and your energy,
Thank
because
you.
I don't think that gets acknowledged at all. Whether you think it's real or not, put that aside for a second. Let's just acknowledge your effort, because this is a big deal.
Yeah, and the only thing that I've ever tried to shove down people's throats is I came at this as a skeptic. I came at this to prove it was the first thought that it was a hoax, which is if you want to do something scientifically, you don't say, I'm going to prove, no, you say to yourself, there's a hypothesis. There is some evidence. There's witness statements. Let me go from hoax back to real if that's possible. And any person of any scientific background right now that just heard me is nodding her head going, yes, this is what you do. You start from the disproving to the proving. And that's the only thing that I tried to shake people on the internet to say, I still can't prove 100% that the video is authentic. And if the people out there listening to me, don't appreciate that statement after $5,000 of my money, 6 years of my life, my phone being tapped, my emails being stolen, death threats, stalking of my family, of their internet, of their social media, then I don't know what else to tell you. I found Victor, of course, absolutely found Victor, lock, stock, and barrel, but I still can't tell you that the film is 100% authentic. I don't have that alien puppet, and I don't have the alien body in formaldehyde, so we'll never know. And I just want people to appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's so important that you're saying that. I think people all too quickly have knee-jerk reactions to these things, and both ways. They say 100% it's real, or they say 100% it's fake. And the problem is there's not a lot of people out there doing the heavy lifting, doing the work, saying, hey, I'm actually going to take this on and find out some interesting things about it. And again, I just want to acknowledge that. I like to see them go ahead and put time and money and energy, time away from your family, spending tens of thousands of dollars actually coming up with some answers to this. And we can get into this later. To my best of my knowledge, nobody's ever come forward and said, hey, I built the puppet. I was working on this stage. I was the actor here. After all these years, you think somebody would have came forward and said something, but they haven't. And that's an interesting piece of this investigation.
Yeah. When you look at somebody, first of all, thank you for saying that. And secondly, it bothered Victor, for those who don't know that much about the film, the whistleblower that said he removed this film from S4 and Area 51 and sold it. It bothered him too that people were doing knee-jerk reactions of it's real. That bothered him. He wanted people to investigate, to research it, and then the world or themselves or whoever that it's real. Which I always found pretty unusual about a whistleblower. If he was a hoax, while you're mad about people that are saying that it is real, without any investigation. Number two is I have a degree in counseling psychology. People appreciate the fact that I've been raw. I tell it like it is. And what I have experienced in the past 5 years, the cruelty, the level of hatred, the people that need to just have a soapbox and just scream and yell, and there's a lot of mental health need out there. People can be pissed off at what I'm saying. I think they know the right. Go post something on Reddit, and you'll see what I'm talking about. That's the Thunderdome cage match of the internet world. Reddit. And then you have, which I've heard, Twitter, and then you have
X.
they're a little bit kinder on YouTube, but not so much. And so it's like and you would think that I was a former pro wrestler, a former political candidate that ran for Congress and governor. I was a used car dealer, independent automobile dealer for 25 years. So you would think that I have alligator skin, and I do. I'm just making a commentary of there's a lot of angry people out there, and all I expected, and wrongly so, was for people to have a dialogue with each other and with me that, "Oh, that's interesting, John, and here's how I see it," and I respect that. I don't expect anyone to agree or not to agree. And lastly is I've been telling everybody for 5 years, I'm just the reporter. I'm just telling you what happened to me. I am coming on podcasts, telling you about emails, telling you about witness statements, telling you about the uh, circumstances in my investigation. I very rarely say I know, and no, a lot of people didn't appreciate just the fact of me being the messenger, relating what was happening to me. Because basically, then you're calling me a liar about lying about what was emailed to me,
Right.
or me lying about what a witness said to me. That's crazy. I'm hyperbolic, Matt. I was a pro wrestler with a made up biography. And when I wasn't injured, I said I was injured. When I wasn't mad, I said I was mad on my opponent. Yes, I was a professional liar for on and off for 25 years as a wrestler. But I'm a human being. I'm a businessman. I'm a father. I'm an investigator. I'm not going to lie to you about an email and then show you the email. It's There were people out there that accused me of writing emails to myself. I'll end it at there. So that's so
That's
bizarre.
great.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
so
it's
bizarre.
yeah, no, I think it's important. I think that people might misunderstand your enthusiasm and your excitement and your energy for you trying to say that, hey, I've solved it, right? There are
Right.
pieces of this puzzle that are absolutely true that you found interesting pieces to, but I think that gets a little bit conflated with your exuberance and your energy level. But what I think doesn't get stated enough is your dedication, your curiosity, and your hard work that you put into that. So I just want to say that one more time before we start digging into the details of this. Hey guys, I just wanted to take a quick second to thank everybody who's been tuning into the shows. If you haven't already hit that like button or hammered that subscribe button, please do that now. It really helps the algorithm to let this show reach a wider audience. And yeah, please leave me a comment in the bottom. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Much love, guys. And I think there's a lack of curiosity in people. And I think there's fear around this. Now, it's understandable that if this piece of footage, let's just put aside for a second. Let's just say it's real for a second. If it is real, it's the most influential piece of footage that's ever been released to the public. I can't think of any other piece of footage that even comes close. So if it's real,
Yeah.
let's just say
In
that.
history.
Now, if it's fake, I think somebody went to a great deal of time and energy to at least make it look authentic. If you watch that and it doesn't at least creep you out a little bit, then I don't know what's wrong with you. There's something about that film that's a little bit creepy. I think we just need to say that right away. Whether it's real or fake, I don't know, but it is weird. And what takes someone who's got the balls to say, hey, I'm going to make some phone calls. I'm going to dig in a little bit. And everyone in the community should be thanking you because there's been multiple high level investigators that have stayed away from this because they don't want to risk their reputation. So you take a risk, you dig into it. Maybe you find out that it's not real or you find something. But I think the problem is that you're finding some interesting things about it. So what I'd like to do today is maybe a year ago, we went into some great stuff. I know you've still been working hard over the last year. Maybe you can clue us in on some of these nuggets that you found out about it.
Has not been debunked in 30 years. People, you have to understand what I'm telling you. No one with credible evidence that could go to a police officer or a court of law to say that this is fake has come forward. Special effects people. I know it's fake and I could do better. And that's great. And I appreciate that. And they have been kind to me. And they've been amazed that a guy is coming to them when they say they think it's fake. I've had many special effects people say, "Why are you calling me? I think it's fake." I'm like, I don't know what it is. I can't understand this film from your perspective if I don't talk to people that think it's fake. Very rarely do you find any researcher that is going to run towards the skeptics. I want people to know that was one of the hallmarks of my investigation. I ran toward and I gravitated towards people that said it was fake, it was a hoax. And here's the problem. And I'm speaking in plain English. I'm speaking like we're having a beer at a bar. Not one person that has claimed it's fake, claimed they debunked it, especially the FX people, has said to me specifically, do you see, and I'm using an example, you see the shoulder, do you see that hump? That's a servo hump from the 1990s. That's it. There you go. It's a robot. It's an animatronic robot. We've proven it. That's the hump. Here's an example of it in another doll, another animatronic creature. No one. You can't, I can't go to the world and say, oh, it's fake. 5X special effects guy said it. And people would ask me, what specifically did they? They didn't. They still don't. They won't. They refuse to remake the doll, like Victor's also demanded. They can't tell me specifically why it's an animatronic being. The only thing that they say is, and we have this on video, is but does a couple of movements that I can't explain. Now wait a minute. If you're a Porsche mechanic for 30 years and your your Porsche that you're working on is doing something that you've never heard of, or if somebody's trying to pass it off as a Porsche, and you say, as a 30-year Porsche mechanic, I've never seen that before, it might not be a Porsche, or maybe something's a fluke. I can't for the life of me understand special effects people saying it makes a couple of moves there that I don't understand how they did it. But and I do this for effect, but you're a special effects person. You're supposed to understand every and if there's a move you can't under you can't understand a movement that it's doing, and this was done by a second tier schlocky video production company. Hmm, isn't that an eyebrow raiser? Saying it's real, but doesn't that raise your eyebrow? So never been debunked. Nobody ever in Hollywood said I worked on that film. That has never happened in any shockumentary to today.
Don't we also, John, don't we also have testimony from Rocket Pictures that they didn't make it? Like that it was absolutely brought to them?
Yes, I interviewed the CEO, the director of both documentaries. I interviewed people on the production, the whole hour documentary. All of them said, including ufologist Sean David Morton, no, we were called by Jeff Broadstreet, the director, to come into the office and take a look at this tape. We know that Victor showed up in a taxi cab. How do you lie about them? For lie about it. This is the biggest thing about the Rocket Pictures making it and then producing that. Two things. We know for a fact before Victor came to Rocket, he went to Fox TV to try and sell this videotape. Why are you, as a second tier production company, filming this video, giving it to Victor, the actor, and telling him to go to Fox? It doesn't make sense. And
Yeah.
we know for a fact it was filmed on 16 millimeter, transferred to VHS tape. The National Geographic hired Bill Mums that I hired said that without a doubt 16 millimeter. Why? As a second tier production company with a very limited budget from the Strange Universe production TV show on the upstart UPN. I'm making specifics because That's lack of money, lack of shoestring budget. Why would you shoot it on 16 millimeter and then transfer it to VHS tape? Don't tell anybody that you did that until the investigators 20 years later find it doesn't even make sense. To emblazon the DNI 27 on the bottom of the film, digital overlay graphics would have cost $1,500, $2,000. Why are you spending that money to do that on that film and then put down a number no one knows about until I discovered it in DNI, Department of Naval Intelligence, that doesn't exist? Why would you spend that money to do that? To make sure that no that people would say the DNI doesn't exist, it's a hoax. Why would it just doesn't make sense. Nobody coming forward in 30 years. I had a military person said, "Yeah, you know why no one's come forward? Because it was filmed by the government. All of those people have NDAs, lifetime NDAs. That's why no one has come forward." I'm not saying it's true, but I had a military person illuminate me with the light bulb over my head. That's why nobody's come forward, because it was filmed by the government. Whether you believe it or not, the government does do magic, psyops. Whether that was part of it, I don't know, but I know it was filmed by the government. That's one of the definitive statements I can make.
John, I've got one of these photos that you sent me about 12 months ago. It's got the DNI and the slash 27 on the bottom there. Can we just pull this up real quick so you can explain to people the Yankee white again and this real quick? Give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to pull this up
Sure.
just so we can refresh everyone's memory here.
I see.
Can you explain to people, just to refresh the memory, who maybe haven't seen episode 1 of us that we did about 12 months ago, the letters and the numbers on the bottom there? What are we looking at?
Specifically, the letters and numbers on the bottom. To the far right is the typical, it's called a timestamp. And this is done in any video production, filming, motion picture. It's called a timestamp. It was invented in the 1930s to be able to edit properly. To the left of it is called an owner's signature. And specifically, why does the government have to do this? Well, the government is showing was making this film. Who was this for? The DNI, the Department of Naval Intelligence, which officially does not exist. In my documentary, I prove that the DNI exists. A CIA director level employee told me it exists. A naval aviator said they tried to recruit him before he went to aviator school. We have a document from a security conference brochure. It's always the devil in the details that was floating around that somebody from Canada sent me that says, and the speaker from the Department of Naval Intelligence, and he's an American military person. So that's called the owner's signature. And the 27 was stupefied. Victor said it was a jerry-rigged cataloging system, which is not really true at all. We found out in United States government audio visualization departments, and when you're showing something that has a security clearance, you have to put the level of security clearance on the film or photos or documentation. Does this make sense? And if you don't do that, you have to, and they used to do this in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, they would actually tell people before the film would run in the room. You would hear on this 16 millimeter film, you do not have the security clearance, Winter Husky, you must leave the room. It's a fact. But now they put the number 27. 27 stumped me until I saw it on Ronald Reagan briefing papers on a documentary by Linda Howe when Ronald Reagan was briefed about extraterrestrials in 81 at Camp David. And we found out that 27 is the security designation. Yankee white definition is those in the government that have contact, those in the military that have contact with the President of the United States. And we have proven, well, we have the list of men in the room, allegedly, and two of them had contact with the President of the United States because one of them was the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, reporting directly to Colin Powell. We have him in the Oval Office briefing George H. Bush, George Bush the first. And that's why you have 27 on it because, and we also found out 3 weeks ago, that 99% of DNI information went directly to the president. It jumped everyone, CIA, FBI, NSA, every Department of Naval Intelligence. It was almost like, we were told it's the spooks. It's like the CIA spooks for the Department of Navy. What we found out 3 weeks ago is that, and reporting directly to the president. It was almost like the presidential arm so to speak, of his administration, of his presidency. And unless the president did not have the clearance to be fully briefed on the extraterrestrial phenomena, which some weren't. And those were Obama, President Clinton did not have President Carter did not have the security clearance or the belief by intelligence community, United States government intelligence communities, that they should be allowed to know about the extraterrestrial phenomena at a level that, like George H. Bush and Ronald Reagan. And so that again, I backtrack. Are you telling me that a second tier hokey video production company, and I'm not being derogatory, that's selling a Chevy Chase Rodney Dangerfield golf video, knew that the number 27 was the number, a security designation, Yankee White, to be able to view documentation like this alien interview? Are you telling me that 25 years ago, that production company and director knew this? That they knew the DNI did exist, even though you still to this day can't find on Google or Wikipedia that it does exist? Folks, please stop. It ends right there. Again, I don't know if the video film is real, and I hope people appreciate that. I personally think 95% is. But if you're going to tell me that a freaking scriptwriter in 1996 is going to know the security designation 27 is the exact level to be able to digest documentation about extraterrestrials, I've got land to sell you in a swamp somewhere in Missouri.
Yeah, so that's unlikely. Yeah, and so the other thing, so there was something interesting that Danny Sheehan brought up maybe 5, 6 months ago on the Night Shift podcast, where he said there's going to be a video that comes out that shows an interview with an alien extraterrestrial being. And the host was taken aback. I was taken aback.
I
And
was too.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think I immediately emailed you after I saw that. And I said, hey, I wonder if he's referring to this piece of footage. I'm sure there's other footage out there. This is obviously a 2-minute piece of footage, if it's real, but there would be more footage out there. So did you have a conversation with Danny Sheehan? Can you give me the nature of that conversation? Did this come up?
Yeah. As soon as I saw it too, Matt, I started the process of contacting Danny Sheehan. And I want to I want to stop here and just say something. I think after my experience, there should be like a hub of someone who has all of the information of all the ufologists in the world, that someone like a new investigator can go to, put in a request to talk to this person. And I think there should be a centralized person, access person that has all, because it takes sometimes weeks to find somebody's phone, which is ridiculous. If we are all trying to find the answer and the truth. Anyways, so I called up Danny Sheehan. I had a great 1 hour conversation with him. He's very funny. To me, he's funny because most of the things Danny said as I was rambling incessantly, which, yeah, he just kept going, uh-huh, but we did talk. We both agreed that the film, the interview, the alien interview that Danny Sheehan is talking about is an Air Force ran alien interview. The Air Force folks ran the extraterrestrial program, probably, bear with me here, from about 47 to around 62. Barry Goldwater, President John F. Kennedy, got frustrated with the CIA. They created the Defense Intelligence Agency to get their own information. Very few people know this. To get their own information, their own documentation, to subvert the CIA and the FBI. Folks, this is a great story. And it's tangentially related to what I'm going to tell you about Danny Sheehan. When the Air Force, frustrated with Blue Book, the FOIA, the people asking, pressure from Congress, the Air Force gave up on the alien and the alien phenomena. I'll see if she can cut it. The Air Force basically gave up on the extraterrestrial phenomena. It was just too cumbersome, too Byzantine. They just couldn't handle it anymore. Here comes an intelligence department agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency. And the Air Force literally told the intelligence community in 1961, 62, we're done. Does anybody want to take over? And the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, said, yes, we'll take it. And this is how the DIA, to this day, still runs basically the umbrella program in conjunction with the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, Department of Energy, the extraterrestrial phenomena. You folks, whether you believe in aliens or not, take that to the bank. That's a fact. And Danny Sheehan and I believe that this was before the transfer to DIA, that what he is talking about is an Air Force run extraterrestrial interview from the early 60s, late 50s. Just wanted to be clear.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. That's what so that's what he thinks that his video is that he's
Yes.
talking about.
Oh, he knows that's what it is. He talked to the man on his deathbed who was an Air Force, a high level Air Force officer who was the liaison. I get this a lot. Boy, you get a lot of liaisons and adjutants and who talk about their boss. And he talked and he said, I wouldn't go in the room with the alien. It appeared demonic to me. And my boss, the colonel, was the highest in the Air Force. I think made colonel. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That he went into the room with 3x5 index cards to telepathically ask questions to this being, this person that Danny Sheehan on his deathbed, we have his name, said this was from the Air Force. It was at S4 and sorry, it was at a government facility. He did not specifically say S4. We believe that they were doing this at Groom Lake under Area 51, the Groom Lake complex, before they built this. We have the foil when they built S2 Alpha, which was the main building that housed the alien retention and that started in like 63. That they started to bring beings to that facility. But Danny thinks this was done at Area 51 in the early 60s, late 50s, and performed by the United States Air. Again, if Danny can bring out this video and it's from another discipline, the Air Force instead of Department of Naval Intelligence, and it's a different being or different creature, this is game changer. This is catastrophic disclosure. So he's backtracked a little bit. I don't know what's going on, but let's all pray that Danny can release that alien footage.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about this because here we are about 6 days out from the hearings that took place last Wednesday, November 18th. If you haven't watched those hearings, everybody, I highly recommend you go watch them. So it's pretty obvious that they're controlling this narrative, and I think rightly, and they're doing it in a very strategic way where they're going after government transparency, lack of government oversight to hold these entities, corporations, three-letter agencies accountable for taxpayer dollars. So it's a very concrete thing they're doing, and I think that's how they're going to move the needle, and they know this, right? They're using pilot safety, all of these different things that are very real, applicable things that everyone can wrap their heads around to move the needle forward. I'm wondering if your conversation with this video is disrupting that process according to them, because obviously this jumps the needle by light years if this is real, right? And I have no doubt that there's probably more footage somewhere in some place. If you buy into the Immaculate Constellation, I think that's absolutely real. Why wouldn't you have a database full of analytics and footage and everything? Why wouldn't you have that?
I want to unpack here.
Contacted by anybody that's really pushing for disclosure, and have they told you like, hey man, we're trying to get this thing done. What you're doing is, we know that this is real, but maybe what you're doing is pushing the needle too far, too fast. Have you had any of those conversations?
Yes, a lot to unpack here, if you don't mind me saying.
Yeah.
The government, they're full of geniuses on this level. They took all of the information, craft to some degree, biologics to some degree, moved it towards corporations. That's like you stole something or you have something illegal or you used illegal means or you're hiding it using illegal funds or money. And now you've taken the hot potato and given it to corporations that you can't FOIA. Oh, smart. Now we have to find a way through Congress to exempt these CEOs from prosecution. I have personally heard that there are former CEOs that are terrified of coming forward, not because of being laughed at, because they want their country club membership, their yacht in Chesapeake Bay. I'm serious, folks. Their condo in Aspen, their golden $50 million pension or parachute to be taken away and be put in prison by the United States justice system. This is a fact. So we have to have a dispensation board like South Africa when they just forgave all sins, basically, if I can use normal vernacular. And we're gonna have to just exonerate these CEOs and tell and if you're not gonna get prosecuted, tell us what you know, and we're gonna have to exonerate former generals, colonels, majors, lieutenants, and captains that also hid this information and maybe the money that was spent on that. And I don't, I'm sorry, I have to say this because David Grush said it. Those that may be committed or authorized um, the murders of people to keep the secret quiet since the late 1940s. I'm just throwing it out there.
Right.
I'm for complete dispensation. This is too huge of a problem to start worrying about who we're going to put in jail. And no, just exonerate him. That's number one.
Yeah. I think, yeah, there's going to be a certain portion of the population that wants their pound of
Yeah,
flesh,
it's too
but you're
big.
right.
Oh,
The
great,
story
great
is
statement.
too big. I think
Yeah.
you have to have some sort of airing out of the dirty
Yes.
laundry.
Yes.
Hey guys, this is what's going on. These were our reasons for doing it at the time. It's unforgivable, but hey, look, the one of the biggest existential questions facing humanity has been answered. And let's have that conversation now.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move past who did what for what reasons over the
Right.
last 80 years. And let's embrace this new age of curiosity and technology and philosophical questioning. It's never happened before.
Yeah. And to finish the question of is Jon Stewart in this alien interview investigation, is this the monkey wrench? I would look at you and say, from what I had been told, yes, to some degree, but not in the way that you think it is. So let me unpack. And that's the last time I'll say unpacked. I have been told by people who are in intelligence, have been intelligence in the intelligence community, and still have contact daily with members in the intelligence community who say, because of my mistakes, because of my hyperbolic personality, because of the craziness of the alien interview, just on prima facie, just wow. Because of my background as a pro wrestler who would wear a sequin robe to the ring, a car dealer, a former politician, that I'm doing I'm doing more damage or more causing more, sowing more confusion and and consternation that the intelligence community could ever do. This is why I think I'm still alive. This is why there hasn't been a knock on the door. I think indirectly, I know I've been told this, whether what I've been told is true, which why would somebody lie about this? That trust, they know about you and you're doing a great job. That was said to me. No, that to me. They
Now,
know
are you
about
doing a
you.
great job in their eyes because they think that people won't believe you?
Correct.
And this is great. This is great because here's this boisterous guy out there talking about this thing that no one's going to believe. That's great. He's the perfect guy to do this. So, yeah, that makes sense.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I have to be self-deprecating. How can you deny that? It is true. I do have this crazy background. I am hyperbolic, even though I've produced scientific evidence and in a investigation worthy of a New York Times article and worthy of any journalist, investigative reporter, anyone. I don't bet one source. I bet that source two or three levels. My delivery and who I am and the way I look or what everything about me in this investigation that if the intel community's going, "No, I- I- I've had more than one person tell me this. And the fact that why isn't there more heat on me? Other than stealing my phone, emails twice, my contacts, names removed, just the numbers, little stuff like that won't affect the business. I'm being sarcastic. But why I've been left alone is because I do not thumb my nose into the government and the DOD and the intelligence community. I say it all the time. I respect the government. The military is on the top of my mental pyramid as a citizen. I was one of the people that kept the North Shore VA from closing. I was the progenitor of that along with Congressman Kirk. I don't throw my nose at the intelligence community. I tell the government I'm willing to help you come out of the classes with this program. I've been a gentleman to them. I've been respectful to them, and I think they appreciate that. And that's sincere.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to go back to the congressional hearings for a
Yes.
second, are you in contact with anybody in and around those congressional hearings? Uh,
I've been in contact with congressional aides, yes, trying to get my investigation trying to be called to one of the hearings to talk about my investigation. At some point, I'm not going to just keep banging on the door. It's my investigation. If you don't want to hear it, you don't want to hear it. At some point, I'm not going to belittle myself and chain
Mhm.
myself to a pillar at the steps of Congress. But I do think it's an important piece of investigation that should be inserted into the official record, even though it is laying on the desk of sovereign congressional representative as we
Yeah.
speak.
And I think there's several conversations that people aren't ready to have yet, clearly. One of them is a face-to-face contact conversation. The abduction conversation is not really being these are very shocking and sometimes traumatizing aspects of the phenomenon that I think there's some validity to that people aren't ready to have. But I think those conversations are coming in the coming years. And those are going to be very uncomfortable, very shocking pieces of this puzzle that people aren't going to like. And then I'm wondering if around that time that this sort of gains a little bit more traction. Do you ever think timing wise? What do you think about timing wise with doing your documentary and all your research? How do you feel about that?
Let me just pedal back a few seconds there. Can you understand the government's position, those that know about this program, and the fact that possibly, folks, listen to, possibly, not saying it's true, that possibly some of the abductions were a psyop conducted by intelligence community members on behalf of the government?
You talk about
Can
my
you,
lab?
I'm not going to go any further.
Okay.
Can you, a government military person coming to Congress saying, we abducted human beings, American citizens. We did experiments on them to make it seem aliens were doing it. If this, we have conjectured statements that the military did some of these, or were at least part and part with extraterrestrial beings allowing these abductions to take place. You're talking about mass disruption, people falling out of off their chairs in a possible collapse of the government. It can be thrown back on rogue elements and we can, oh my gosh, everything. And I do believe that the American public is so obsessed with football and Wheel of Fortune and the Real Housewives of New Jersey that maybe this can slide past America. So that, let me just say that about the abduction phenomenon. As far as my investigation, yeah, it's coincidental that it's perfect timing, and I do believe, and I have a friend that's an intermediary with David Grush, and I pass information to David all as much want to and can. But I do believe that him and Lou, I do believe that David Grush was cajoled to come forward as a thwarting of my investigation because David Grush came forward after I'm walking around Congress with a investigation packet about Project Aquarius in a photo of this crazy film. I think that just sent alarm bells everywhere. And it's let's roll out David Grush. This is my opinion.
Can you
Whether
tell people the
David,
timing of that, of when you did that and then
yes,
when he came forward?
yeah. So it was about 3 to 4 months before David Grush came forward. I was walking around the halls of Congress passing out this investigation. So, and even, I don't even know if David would agree with it or David would believe this, but I think the powers that be were like, oh boy, we got to get ahead of this.
Mm.
Even the powers that be that want disclosure, want people to understand. I have been told that there's 50-50 in the halls of Washington and the powers that be that 50% want disclosure, 50% don't. It's just bloodless civil war that is happening about disclosure. And I think people that want disclosure sent Grush out to say, hey, let's back this crazy guy from Chicago's investigation. He's talking about we have craft and aliens. Let's go. And what does David Grush say? We have craft and we have biologics. So David Grush totally backed up my investigation. He did nothing to discredit. He actually put my investigation on the front burner.
Yeah, and it's also totally plausible that this tidal wave was coming ever since 2017 with the New York Times article, and that more and more
Possible,
people
yes.
are coming forward. You've got podcasts popping up everywhere. You've
Yeah.
got Jon Stewart doing this investigation into this very controversial piece of footage. I'm sure this was coming, and then I'm sure you didn't help that going
No,
down there. And I'm sure people
no.
were recognizing that on the radar. And then, yeah, maybe he was cajoled into coming forward and spiking the football, which started this other little ripple of interest over the
It's a
last, what are
problem.
we at,
Yeah.
15, 16 months now.
And there's a problem with my film, folks. which is why someone from the National Air and Space Intelligence Center, an agent with them in Wright-Patterson Field, Air Base, Ohio, said to me, it's blacklisted. The film is blacklisted. Don't talk about it. Don't acknowledge. Shrug your shoulders. Tell people you don't know what they're talking about because they're in fear of the discovery. This going to court, this going to a congressional hearing where you can then have discovery. Okay. That's why they never prosecuted Victor or Joseph Yeager was the mastermind of the theft of this film. If you prosecuted them, the first thing the public would say is, why are you prosecuting people in the government for a hoax film? Oh, nobody thought about it.
Mm.
So that's why the government laid hands off. No, wait a minute. Let me just finish with this. If you were anyone in intelligence, would you not at least do a threshold investigation about that film when it came out in 97? It had all the vernacular encoding. Victor sounded very convincing. The being was bizarre. Would you not, at the very least, hold a threshold investigation into that film if you knew nothing about it? Of course you would. And the fact that they didn't is the reason is because they knew it. They knew exactly what it was. Stolen off area Groom Lake and was sold, and there was no mystery to the government.
Yeah, incredible. What one thing about the video?
Let me caveat emptor. Stolen and sold to the public does not mean that it's a real interview of an extraterrestrial. It could be stolen out of the PSYOP operation department and leaked out intentionally or unintentionally. Myriad of reasons. So I just want to say stolen does not imply real.
I appreciate you clarifying that. Just to go back, I thought this was really interesting. I caught one of your other interviews. I would like to plug the podcast, but I can't think of it at the moment. But I caught one of your other interviews recently, and you were talking about the monitor with the light that goes up and down, and that some of the information you got about this piece of equipment is that it might actually be a communication device. I think I've got a small snapshot of it here. If I could just pull this up and maybe you could tell that story, because I find that really interesting. Let me see if I can find it here.
Correct. Yeah.
Here it is. Okay. Let me see. Let me know if you can see this. I think it's this one. Can you see it?
Yes, and that's actually one of the picture that has showing the metal bracket and there's
Oh, that's right. I don't know if I have that one.
So I talked to 3 PhD fellows getting their PhD on physiological monitors. They didn't know what it was. I talked to 2 highly advanced engineers at research and development for space labs in Hewlett Packard. Folks, I dug, okay? I just wasn't some guy. I went to the sources. All the experts in the world did not know what that monitor was, which I thought was crazy that a second-tier video production company could make that. We've had FX people say, no, it's a laser on glass. We took a laser. We pointed it on glass in a darkened room. It looks vaguely similar, but it's nowhere the thickness and the vibration and the vibrance of that monitor. Now, we have Whitley Strieber coming forward. Folks, it's a bombshell. He says in a conference, Whitley doesn't even know me.
Can you explain to everybody who Whitley Strieber is real quick?
Whitley
Just to go into
Strieber
that.
is a man
This is
that
an
claimed to
important
be
point.
abducted in 1985. He wrote a book about it, became a New York Times bestseller called Communion. He says in a conference to an audience, do you see this video here? I think this video is real. It's very controversial. Do you see that little green blip? I saw that green blip in the corner of my eye when I was writing the book Communion. I think it's a way for extraterrestrials to communicate with humans. I couldn't get this blip out of my vision. I would put my hand over it. It would not work. I tried to put my thumb over it. It would not work. It constantly stayed in the corner of my eye, on the corner of my desk while I was writing the book. I think it's how the Greys were communicating with me information while I was writing the book Communion. Yeah. Now that he goes, now I never told this to anybody till today. And this was like in 2019. The hoax, alleged hoax video was made in 1996. Allegedly. He said, how would the director or the producer of this documentary know to put a green blip that looked just like the one I saw in my home, on my desk? How would they know that's how extraterrestrials communicate to put that in the film? So you're putting a blip that only Whitley Strieber knows about. You're putting the number 27 in DNI that only a handful of people knew about in 1996. Folks, does this any sense that this is a schlocky video production company in Beverly Hills that created this? I'm not trying to sway you anyway, but for God's sakes, it's getting ridiculous to the point of that this could possibly be a hoax. Now, we've had people tell us, experiencers and people in the program, some of these grays vibrate. They vibrate to the electronically, like vibrate. Like when you walk in the room with them, you can feel like electrostatic energy. And then somebody from Bell Labs said, I think that's our device. I think we made it, and it could pick up electrostatic energy. Now, wait a minute. We have a security guard from 1990 that came forward, and the video was held until '08. But he says, very interestingly, before our shift started guarding the spaceships, we would put Vaseline on our arms and hands and in our hair because some of the spaceships had electrostatic discharge so much that it would make the hair stand on our. You police driver in cahoots with a security guard from 1990, and then Jesus Christmas, everyone. It's the same story from people that don't know each other from decades apart, from different
Right.
disciplines, from layman to military, all saying the same damn story. This is where I'm at in 2024. Like, I gotta make this documentary. No one else could help me debunk it. But that monitor is one of the keystones. And then the bracket, which we haven't showed. The bracket, there's an actual bracket. It's got a
So we
fin on
showed
top.
that on our last
Yeah,
interview, John. So yeah, so anybody hasn't watched that in our first interview, we talk about that little bracket
right.
casing there, but to refresh everyone's memory about that.
It's not just a pane of glass because it's all darkened, right? Why would you go to any more elaborate length than you need to if you're hoaxing this? When Bill Mums, the National Geographic guy, to enhance this, he saw metal bracketing around the metal. It had a fin. It had a little protrusion, like you took the cartridge of a bullet, like a space capsule, flat on the bottom, and then comes to a tip, and that was molded into that bracket, like the protrusion. And Bill Bum said the same thing that even an honest ethics person told me. You sit there in a metal shop and fabricate, put a fin, put a little bullet protrusion. Why would you go to all of these steps unless it was necessary for the manufacturer and the operation of that device? Why would you do that as a product master for a hoaxed video that no one's going to see that metal bracket in the finished product? The answer is you wouldn't. They just put a piece of glass with two brackets, shine the laser on it. Why you make a metal bracketing that was never showing me a break?
Mhm. And I think it's also important. Everyone might not know this. I'm going to put a link in the description to the footage that came out with Rocket Pictures. But it's important to note that the original footage was not all dark the way Rocket Pictures dressed it up
Thank you.
to create that ambiance. So I want to show this quick picture right here that had the bluish hue because it's
You're doing
important
a
to
great
talk
job in
about
this
this.
interview, by the way. I just want to let you know.
What's that?
You're doing a great job in this interview, by the way. This is
Thank you. I appreciate that. John, this is the original photo that you sent me. So the original footage had this bluish hue, which allows you to see more things in the background. Is that correct?
that's correct. This is
Okay.
the way the VHS tape looked when Victor brought it to Rocket Pictures. Rocket Pictures were the ones that darkened the video for dramatic theatrical effect.
Now, because it's bluish in the background, when they actually ran this, you could make out other figures in the room, like in the
Yes,
foreground. Is that correct? So
that's correct.
it,
The two military people in the foreground whose shoulders get in the way. The one military person on the right is holding a Sony camcorder handheld device, and the one on the left is an army general that we've identified in the documentary. And you'll see his shoulder when the medic shines the flashlight accidentally into the viewing gallery.
Mhm. And also, I don't know if this was your discovery or someone else's discovery, but couldn't someone make out the lapel on someone in the foreground or a patch on the
Yeah,
foreground? Has that been verified? Do we
no,
know?
it's too blurry. But there's a researcher, Andrew Burlington, in England. And they saw the shoulder patch or the material in the original documentary, but Andrew Burlington screenshotted to try to clean it up and analyze it. It looks like a blue patch with 4 stars. I think it looks like an eagle looking to the left, which is a Polish eagle, which doesn't make sense. There is the I forget the terminology, the little banner above the shoulder patch. First of all, if you have a right shoulder patch, that means you were in combat. That's your division, and you were in combat, and you're able to wear that on your right shoulder. And then you above that is the little banner that would say recon, airborne, and or Delta, and that's above the patch too. And you can definitely see an epaulet with 3 or 4 stars. So it's very fuzzy and hazy. But yes, you can just definitely tell that this was a military person, an army general wearing a Class A dress.
Again,
That is just
another piece of arcane detail. Like, why would you do that? It doesn't add up. So these are more like little details that are interesting little finds that just create a lot of questions about
and he's
how.
African American. There was like 4 generals in 91 that were African American. Why would you get an actor who's African American to further try and tell people this is a hoax? He wouldn't. And
Doesn't add up,
African
right?
American general it is, and it's not Colin Powell. We've conclusively been proved on the documentary with an artist rendition and the lips and whatnot, and we show you who this army general is. It's startling. And yeah, why would you do this? Why?
Yeah,
Makes sense. Yeah.
lot of questions. John, we got a few more minutes here
Yes. Yes.
before we wrap this up. I really want to
Mm.
thank you for coming back on. I said this last time. I think you might be one of the kind of perfect persons to talk about this because of the nature of your personality and your demeanor and your curiosity and your determination. Like I said, a lot of other researchers wouldn't touch this. And people should be thanking you for taking the time, energy, and money to answer some questions about it. Whether you think it's real or not, it's just important, I think, that somebody takes a good hard look at it. So tell people how they can find it, what can they
Right.
expect, and we'll close it
The
out.
pay-per-view link, which can be viewed all over the world, it's on cloud streaming, is at huntingvictor.com. That's my website. You'll see the pay-per-view link. It's $8.88. I'm not breaking the bank on anything. And I don't claim that the video is real. Not now, not in the documentary. I have my personal opinions. I leave it up to the viewer. I do tell you conclusively who Victor is, which the whole UFO world has been waiting for 27 years to find out who Victor is. I name the men in the room. I show you another person that saw this alien interview from a different angle with more men in the room. We have him on video. We tell you how I finally got Victor. We go over the monitor. We go over the people's names, my investigation of the people of those names, of the provenance of the entire alien interview program, how this was snuck out. Where did Victor go? It's a great compilation. It's just me having a conversation with Michael Carter from Ancient Aliens. So don't expect some kind of sweeping Netflix grandiosity, but we make up for it in content, I assure you. And we have a lot of B-roll and a lot of documents and video. You'll like it. It's for the budget that we had, I think we did a very good job. And most importantly, we showed the American, the people, the world, the documents, the names, the places, the dates, the facilities. We gave the finale. We showed Bigfoot. We showed the alien. We showed you that we found the missing girl. I'm talking about documentaries in the past that don't have any conclusion. And I hated that, but I still do it. We find the missing girl. We find the Bigfoot body. We prove what the Bermuda Triangle is. I am so proud of it, that I can tell you who Victor is. I can tell you the men in these rooms, the name of the program, the security code of the program. We name it all. And I'm very proud. So you go to huntingvictor.com. There's the link. It's on the Decast streaming cloud network. It's $8. It'll come out Thanksgiving night, which is
Awesome. Well,
homage to my pro wrestling life, because in Thanksgiving night was a big night in pro wrestling. A lot of big matches. So made a little homage to my former career.
that's fantastic. I can't wait to watch it, John. I'm going to put links to all your stuff and where people can find it in the description. And yeah, I just have one request, John. If this goes viral and you wind up being on Joe Rogan's podcast, don't forget about me. I'd love to interview you after I watch it as well. I
Not
find
to
this utterly
disappear.
fascinating, and I'm happy that someone's out there doing some heavy lifting on this because it's
Yeah.
utterly interesting.
Yeah. A UFO skeptic actually credited me, and I'm not bragging, I'm just saying that of all these UFO luminaries, Jon Stewart's the only one that's engaging with people and People text me on my phone. They're like, "This can't be Jon Stewart." I'm like, "What do you think I'm a movie star?" Yes, it's me. I answer every email. I can't walk away from the people that helped me solve this, and the internet and the people on the internet helped me solve this. The people that invented YouTube, the people that invented all of these platforms where strangers who helped me in this investigation, I never will stop crediting them, and I'll never walk away from them. So I appreciate you saying that. I'm not going to get big headed. Believe me, I answer all emails and I will do anything I can to continue that. And I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate it, John. Want to thank everybody for watching. Check out John's documentary. It's coming out Thanksgiving. I'll put links to it in the bottom. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks for watching the show. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. If you're finding any value, please hit that subscribe button, that like button, and leave a comment. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps out the show.